Since 1984, Sawyer has existed to support your wildest adventures. Learn about their advanced insect repellents and family of technical lightweight water filters at Sawyer.com.
Welcome to Wellness in the Wilderness. Come with us on the trail of life as we inspire you to take a step outdoors, to disconnect from the distractions and reconnect with yourself. Sydney Williams and her guests will motivate you to get active and get well. Now, here is Sydney.
Welcome to Wellness in the Wilderness. I'm your host, Sydney Williams, author and founder of Hiking My Feelings. And today I'm broadcasting live from the ancestral lands of the Kumeyaay people, now known as Julian, California. If you're a brand new listener, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show. And if you've been here since the first episode, all three of them prior to this one, welcome back. We hope that no matter where you lie on this outdoorsy spectrum we're exploring, we hope that you find this something useful in this episode that can help you find your version of wellness in the wilderness. Now, about our guest today. Natalie Small lived with the ocean most of her life. Being away from the waters feels like leaving home. For that reason, she knitted her profession and love for the ocean together through Groundswell Community Project, a nonprofit that provides a safe space for women battling with mental health problems. Surf therapy is the main focus of the healing process, which serves in many levels. Natalie believes that surfing is an art in which every participant can learn to create something beautiful out of their awful past. It offers not only a temporary fix, rather, the skills learned from the course serves as a tool that participants can use throughout their entire lifetime. In this episode, we'll be chatting with Natalie about how she found her way to Mother Ocean, what inspired her to start Groundswell Surf Therapy, and how the community has helped thousands of women around the world find self-love, sea love, and sisterhood. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Ooh, thank you. This is exciting. This is my first live radio experience, and so thank you for having me.
Yay! We're so glad you're here. And before we talk about all the amazing things that you've done with Groundswell since its inception, I'd love to take a trip down memory lane. How did you get into surfing?
Surfing, I feel like, has been part of my life from the very beginning through. And when I say surfing, I like to think of surfing as any way of engaging in Mother Ocean and building that relationship with the ocean. And so from surfing the waves on my body as a kid, I did lots of body surfing and boogie boarding, to surfing the waves and sailing out at deeper seas, to even, I just came from our surf therapy facilitator retreat down in Mexico, and they were speaking into the reality of us surfing out of the wombs of our mothers, because the salinity of our amniotic fluid is the similar salinity to that of the ocean. And so I like to think that surfing has been a part of who I am and how I exist in the world before I even knew that it was called surfing. But my first time surfing on a surfboard was in junior high and at Leo Carrillo State Beach along the coast of California near Los Angeles. And I had a couple guy friends that did water polo, and they invited me to go with them. And my dad was very wary of me disappearing with a bunch of boys at the beach. And so my dad drove us down and chaperoned us on my first surf experience. And they just handed me a little tiny shortboard, gave me zero direction, and we just paddled out. And I literally don't remember it. I think I just blacked out.
So
I blacked out. It was just overwhelming.
I kind of love that.
Yeah. The only thing I actually remember just being mortified that my dad was there wearing a Speedo. That was the biggest memory of that experience.
Oh my gosh. And to back up for just a second, I love the conversations you were having at your facilitators retreat down in Mexico about surfing out of the womb. I could do a whole episode on just that. So I want to just acknowledge that I love that you're thinking about that. I'm visualizing how you've spent time in water from conception to present day, and how deeply ingrained the power of the ocean and the water is in your life and your work and everything you've done. And the vision of your dad in a Speedo. I haven't met your father. But as a woman who has a father who liked to wear Speedos just at our pool in our backyard, so he'd get sun and not get a weird tan, I empathize with you. So
Thank you. It's obviously a scarring experience.
Oh, man. All right. So you were not actually blacked out, but have no memory of the first surf experience. I really actually love just like trial by fire in an ocean. And I'm assuming that when we talk about the Groundswell Surf Therapy Project, that's not how you introduce people to the water. But before we get to that, I was listening to some of the other podcasts that you've done. And in one of them, you mentioned that when you first started surfing, this was a self-care ritual for you. How did that become a thing? What were the other tools you were using? And how did surfing kind of elevate its way to be at the forefront of your self-care practice?
Yeah, I mean, when I first began surfing, so after that middle school blackout Vito experience, I just got hooked. And so it became something that we would like drive after school, got out, drive straight to the beach, surf at County Line, camp out in the car, and then surf in the morning, then come back to school. And it really helped me find a sense of home within California. I'm originally from North Carolina and had a really hard time adjusting to life in the big city. And so the ocean was my reconnection back to nature, back to myself, back to experiencing home and community. Previously, my nature experience was all like forests and trees, and when I would get upset or get in trouble or was crying or had different emotions coming in as a kid, I would go up to my tree and hang out in my tree, and that was the space that held me. And when I moved out to California, I didn't have that same access point, and surfing the waves in Mother Ocean was what started helping me have that space of being held and escape from everything else that was going on in life and just a place just to be with myself. And then when I moved, I ended up like shifting everything. I was originally wanted to go back to school for university on the East Coast. And then after I started surfing, I was like, oh my gosh, these waves over here, this is what I need more of. And so ended up going to school down in San Diego at Point Loma Nazarene and surfed Sunset Cliffs for 4 years straight. I didn't surf any other waves. And it was the place I mainly surfed by myself. I had a hard time I had a handful of other girlfriends that would surf with me. And it was them and myself. And it was just a sanctuary, a place of connecting, a place of like, whether I was grieving and going through a breakup or rage or just pure bliss and excitement for life, I could go out into the ocean and just be held in it. And I remember even just the conversations that would spark up with random people that I would never see again out in the lineup, from people being able to talk about like my wife's pregnant and I can't tell anybody, but I can tell you because we're out here together, to people talking about being diagnosed with with cancer and different diseases, to being able to just make eye contact as you're going down a wave, as you're like crossing each other on a wave, and just feeling that like, fuck yeah, you made it. Like just that excitement and thrill of getting to experience a moment together with someone that you might not ever meet again. And so it was just this essence of getting a chance to really like be seen and see others just for being human and in this life together. And it just, all the other stuff and the labels and the expectations and judgments and everything that I feel like is something that we walk around with on land, it just didn't matter as much out in the ocean. When that big wave came, everybody was equalized and everybody got tumbled and held under, and everybody pops up on the other side, makes eye contact, and we're like, we made it. Okay, keep going. And it just, yeah, it was like this connecting point of simply just being humans versus all the other things that we throw on each other back on land.
I am obsessed with so many of the things that you said, and I'm going to kind of pull them out one by one. The first one being that notion of the great equalizer that is the ocean and the waves. What a beautiful thing to have access to. What an incredible awareness to bring into your life that would then create that sense of equality on and off the water. I imagine if you find that connection on the water, it's perhaps a little bit easier to facilitate that on land. Is that true for you?
Yeah, I mean, that comes down to, it's hard to, if you haven't experienced it, it's hard to replicate it. And so even like when we're teaching our surf therapy facilitators and teaching surf therapy, we teach everything through an experiential lens and process. And that is that piece of once you've experienced something, your neurological pathways start firing in a new way and are shifting into like, oh, this is something that could be possible. And as you experience it more consistently and more frequently, your brain's like, this isn't just like a one-off thing that randomly happened, but this is a reality that I can live within and continue incorporating into the other areas of my life as well. And so from that grand equalizer that you can experience out in the ocean to experiencing joy, to experiencing connection. Once we get a chance to, even if it's just like a little tiny moment of connection and joy with another human being or with our bodies or with nature, our brain absorbs that and starts like recalculating and refiguring to be like, oh, that is real. And then as we experience it more and more, each wave is this like helping that new neurological pathway grow deeper and deeper into like, this isn't just a one-off, but this is really something that's true about me and about the world around me. And then we can take that back on land, whether we're consciously thinking about like, I'm going to bring this back into my relationship or back into my career in my classroom, but it's naturally happening because the brain has experienced it and deeply knows it now and is moving from a different perspective and a different worldview.
Yes. Fist pumps in the back. So one of the other things that you mentioned was in the spirit of that connection found on the lineup was the ability to share space and create space for those kinds of conversations, whether it was sharing that joy. My wife is pregnant. I can't tell you, but I can't tell anybody, but I can tell you, or a recent, difficult diagnosis. When you started having those conversations on the lineup, were you already in pursuit of becoming a therapist, or was this more after you had already gone through school and got your license to be a therapist?
Those conversations, I feel like just naturally happen, whether I'm a therapist or not a therapist. And I think, and now being a therapist and going through all the education and the science and understanding what's happening, there's so much that the ocean does to support that kind of that de-shelling or de-judgments or like that shedding of the things that we create, the barriers that we create in between each other. Through you're having a shared experience, so you're able to sit side by side next to each other. And throughout history, people either sat in circle or sat side by side as they were hunting and gathering or weaving and had conversation. And so the traditional therapeutic model of sitting across from each other and no stimulation isn't actually how we used to have conversation and commune. We used to commune in nature side by side to each other. And the essence of the ocean just bringing all of our senses to life. And so even just like right now, if everyone takes a moment to think about the ocean, you can taste the saltiness. You can feel the currents. You can feel the temperature of the water, the way it moves, that you can imagine the sound of the waves as it breaks on either the rocks or the sand or whatever coastline you're most attuned to. And so just thinking about the ocean alerts all your senses into the reality of living. And so getting to be in the ocean even turns that on even more so. So you're naturally already in this heightened state of awareness and aliveness. And it just creates this opportunity to really experience something with another person and to let go of all those different judgments or barriers or we're different, but actually we're both human out here. And that wave can take us out the same. And that in itself, when we let go of those different judgments and goggles that maybe we wear on land and just see each other as human, it opens up this platform to be able to just vulnerably be and share. And I think that's been surfing has brought me to all different places around the world. And that's been something that I've found consistently is the language of the ocean. No matter what culture I come from or the other person comes from or language we speak back on land or experiences we've had, when we're in the ocean, there is this uniting common language of the sea that trumps everything else.
Oh, yes. Take it. Man. So before we jump to the next break, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you started your therapy practice, how surfing became part of that, and the barriers that you faced, whether that was internal or external, about calling surfing therapy.
There are so many barriers. I mean, in the therapy world, to call yourself a therapist is a big deal. You go through your master's program and 3,000 hours of working with clients and supervision, and then you have to take a test and you get your license. And so it's a big process. And then all the different modalities of therapy have to go through all this research and certification and all of these different things that you have to overcome in order to become a certified EMDR therapist or art therapist, or all these different terminologies. And so to call something therapy, or to call yourself a therapist in something that hasn't gone through that whole process, is in some ways like belittling the process that all these other therapeutic modalities have gone through. And so for me, when I first started noticing the connection between surfing, the ocean, connection with our bodies, connection with community, and how powerful those were all together, I was nervous to call it therapy and was worried that I would get my license taken away if I did call it therapy, because there wasn't the research behind it yet. There wasn't the certification. I couldn't go to school and get certified in it yet. And so there was a lot of hesitation around it. And through a lot of mentorship, a lot of support, the International Surf Therapy Organization started recognizing that I am a therapist, and I am holding very therapeutic space in the model and the curriculum that I created with support and mentorship. It is therapy. And so took that jump and that leap of starting to call what we were doing as surf therapy. And since then, we've been able to dive deeper into doing the research and into bringing different people onto the team to help develop it in a really holistic, grounded, research-based, trauma-informed based model. And we're in that process of it being able to be called therapy. And we're the first organization that's providing CEUs, so that way people can learn about surf therapy and get hours towards their licensure and to continue their licensure. And so we're on that process and on those baby steps. And I still don't call myself a surf therapist yet, because I want to save that term for once it is in schools and it is acknowledged as a true therapeutic model within the psychology world. But we're getting there, and it's exciting.
Oh, man. Okay. So for those of us that are here and listening live, we have been talking with Natalie Small, founder of Groundswell Surf Therapy Project and the Groundswell Community Project, working towards calling surf therapy. And when we get back from the break, we will jump right back in and talk about how the curriculum came to be, where it's at, what surf therapy actually is. So don't go away. We will be right back.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit facebook.com/Voice America.
Have you ever spoken unkindly to yourself? Do you realize when you do? Are you ready to make changes, but find yourself completely paralyzed by the choices in front of you? We live in a hyper-connected, always-on world, and frankly, it's exhausting. Let's make time to disconnect from the distractions and reconnect with yourself. Hiking My Feelings exists to help people discover the healing power of nature. Kickstart your healing journey and grab a copy of the book that started our movement, Hiking My Feelings, Stepping into the Healing Power of Nature. Named one of Audible's best hiking audiobooks and available wherever books are sold. Visit hikingmyfeelings.org today to learn more.
Sawyer is more than an outdoor company. Every Sawyer product you buy contributes to our common humanity, bringing Sawyer water filtration systems to people in need all around the world. In just 2022 alone, 260,000 households in over 45 countries received clean drinking water through Sawyer filters. Over the past 10 years, we've teamed up with over 140 charities in 80 countries to provide long-term, sustainable relief, domestically, internationally, and in disaster situations. Together, we're saving millions of lives. Thank you.
Ready to find your wellness in the wilderness? Look no further than Hiking My Feelings. Through a combination of community and self-discovery, our programs are designed to give you the space and support to connect life's dots. If you're looking to figure out who you are underneath the stories you've been given and are ready to redesign the map of where you're headed with actionable steps and opportunities to dream big, we're here to walk alongside you. Whether you're a seasoned adventure enthusiast or brand new to the healing power of nature, we've got your back. Visit hikingmyfeelings.org today to download our free Trail Thoughts worksheets and learn more about Hiking My Feelings.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You're listening to Wellness in the Wilderness with Sydney Williams. Have a question for Sydney and her guests? Join us on the show at 888-346-9141. That's 888-346-9141. Now back to the show with Sydney.
Welcome back to Wellness in the Wilderness. I'm Sydney Williams, and I've been chatting with Natalie Small, founder of Groundswell Community Project. And in our first segment, we were talking about how Natalie got into surfing, how that became a really critical part of her self-care practice, how she turned her passion for surfing into a therapeutic modality, and the process that she's going through in order to officially call it surf therapy and claim the title as a surf therapist. Natalie, welcome back to the show. Now you have this curriculum. You are doing stuff all over the world. Talk to me about how you would describe your work to somebody that has never surfed and has never had access to traditional or clinical therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of surf therapy as actually, it's a beautiful piece to add on to your individual therapy practice, as well as it's a kind of like a gateway into self-care and into therapy and what that can look like and feel like for each person. Because I mean, therapy really hasn't been around that long. The whole career and field of psychology is really just within this last century and two. And so before that, people healed. People healed by going to nature. People healed by connecting to their bodies and the wisdom of their bodies and connecting to community. And so I like to think of surf therapy as actually this bridge between the two worlds, between the modern day psychology world and the ancient ways of healing that have been happening from the beginnings of humanity and the beginnings of animals being animals. And it's really reconnecting back to our instincts and to our animal selves and being able to listen and learn from our bodies, from nature, and from community to really be our fullest expression in the world. And a lot of times, a lot of the questions that come in when people are like, what is this? Is this something for me? Am I going to have to share my story or listen to everybody else's story? What does it look like to show up in those spaces? And I like to kind of reframe the stereotypical therapy model of talk therapy, where you have to talk about your problems in order to experience the healing or go through the process. And the Groundswell model is really more of a presencing group rather than a processing group. And so it's really about bringing us back into this present moment. And when you've experienced trauma, and big T or little t trauma, I see that as it's an experience that has happened within you and around you that has altered your relationship with self, your relationship with the world around you, and your relationship with others. And now you're moving through the world with this new worldview that has come from that experience of either it being like a tangible thing that happened or just not getting enough of what you needed to feel heard and seen and supported, or getting too much. And so the process of surf therapy is really coming back into this present moment. And so trauma triggers are constantly bringing us back into that past experience, into that past moment. And the ocean, our community, and our bodies are inviting us back into the present. And so it's more of a presencing group rather than a processing group. You can show up and not say a single word the entire 8 weeks and still experience powerful transformation. We are inviting our bodies back into the process. And so we welcome in a lot of movement and tuning in to what's not just what's happening in your mind, but what's happening in your body. And what are you noticing in your body? What areas of your body are getting tight? What areas of your body want to move? What does your body want to do? And letting the ocean kind of be this platform or this canvas for you to try it on and play with it and experience it and explore it, the hard stuff and the beautiful stuff. And every wave is this little opportunity to try on something different. And so I like to see every wave as almost like this little mini adverse experience or trauma experience that's coming at you. And rather than typically in life, when a trauma experience happens, it blindsides you. It takes away your right to control and your right to power, your right to say yes or no, your right to choose. And so as we get this opportunity, as a wave is coming at us, we get to reclaim our choice and our power and our belonging, and to choose like, hey, I'm going to go underneath this wave. I'm going to jump over the wave. I'm going to turn around and surf the wave, or I'm going to let the wave pummel me and see what happens, knowing that that wave will pass. And there will be a calm after the wave, after the set. I can take a moment to regroup, learn from it, experience, like recognize what was that experience, share it with others, and then be like, okay, what do I want to do with this next wave? Do I want to do the same thing? Do I want to try on something different? And so every little wave is this opportunity to build new neurological pathways in the brain and build resiliency and retrain our brains to be able to adventure through the world with resiliency versus through fear.
Whoo, wait, okay. Couple things. One, I believe that I am still on this planet because survivors of similar trauma to what I survived were brave enough to share their story and gave me the language that I needed to, one, understand that what happened to me wasn't my fault, and two, to understand that I wasn't alone. And what you just said about a presencing group versus a processing group is giving me that same feeling, in that everything that you just said about the waves and the opportunities to try something new on and handle it differently, and the beautiful metaphor of a wave being like a traumatic event, but now we have this agency over how we respond and what we want to do with it. If you swapped ocean for trail and surfing for hiking, you literally just unlocked all the language I didn't know I needed, but have felt deeply in my spirit and every cell of my body. Like, my hand is on my chest right now, and I'm trying to have enough air to finish my sentence. But like, everything that you just said just put into perspective what hiking and backpacking is to me. So thank you for diving so deep, pun intended, into surfing as a therapeutic modality and the language that you've developed around how to speak about it, especially when it comes to processing trauma. Like, I need a nap after this. I need to go for a hike. I need to journal for 3 days. And I had a feeling this would happen because one of our facilitators actually went through your program. And she was just like, Sydney, the likenesses are so wild. And this is actually therapy. And I'm recognizing the value of what you do through this lens. And I was just like, oh my God, this is wild. So thank you. And I am just absolutely moved by the visual and some of the other podcast interviews that you've given where you explain this total sensory immersion and the science of healing in the ocean. Could you touch on that a little bit? You've mentioned the neuroscience, you've mentioned the neural pathways and how surfing's kind of helping reset that, and these activities and this curriculum gives us new things to work with. Can you give us the quick and dirty nerdy bits about how the ocean helps us heal and the science behind it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much research that is starting to happen around this. That's really exciting. But I think for me, the core essence of it that really grasped me and pulls me into continuing this work is the essence of it. We're coming back to the body. And so trauma happens to the body. And oftentimes when we experience a trauma, our frontal lobe goes offline and we're just moving through our survival brain. And so to be able to talk about your story and to be able to create meaning around it and put words to it can be really difficult to do. And when you come into traditional talk therapy, that's what is expected to do. You're expected to be able to talk about it. And just talking about it can be re-traumatizing and re-triggering. And then for those that are that are listening to it, it can be re-traumatizing and triggering as well. And so I think the beauty of like somatic therapy, art-based therapy, nature-based therapies is that it's moving from it's meeting you where you're at and allowing the body and welcoming the body back into the healing process rather than expecting you to be able to move from the frontal lobe right away. And it's this integrating in between, like, as you recognize, like, ooh, I am safe, I am held here, I am seen, heard, and honored, that allows that frontal lobe to come back on. And then you can start creating those meanings and story and being able to speak that out. But it first starts with the body and being able to notice what's happening in the body and reconnecting with our bodies. And especially with certain forms of trauma, like especially sexual trauma, there can be blockages from the body because the body and brain is trying to keep you safe from having to experience that. And so as we open up and reconnect with our bodies, sometimes it can get harder before it gets easier. And that's actually some of the reflections that we've had from different women that have gone through our programs, is that after a surf therapy session, their dreams are just ignited at nighttime, or their memories of an experience that they didn't remember start coming back into play. And so being able to have that space to recognize, like, the body's holding a lot. And when we give access to it and start opening up and acknowledging the wisdom that she's holding and how she's protected us and kept us safe, it's just amazing what can start flowing out. And the ocean gives that space to shake it out. From, like, some of the somatic therapy tools is literally like a shake it out movement, where you're like shaking your hands, shaking your feet, shaking your whole body. And it's something that dogs and animals naturally do after they receive a stress hormone release. But in our human bodies, in cultures, we're told that we can't do that. And so we just store up all the stress release in our bodies. And that's where a lot of different diseases and disabilities can stem from, is that stress stored up in the body. And we're like, I don't know why this is happening. And like, it's connected to our mental state, our emotional state. And so the ocean allows us to shake things up and move our bodies in ways that we don't allow ourselves to move back on land. To even EMDR therapy, which is that rapid eye movement, and bilateral stimulation of the brain. And that's happening naturally when we are surfing. We're paddling left and right, left and right, left and right, that bilateral stimulation. When we're scanning the horizon for waves, we're doing bilateral eye movements. And so there's so much that you're naturally doing in the ocean that are therapeutic models and tools back in the office, but you're not having to force yourself to do it. Your body's naturally doing it. And by naturally doing it, you're also creating this sustainability, and you're experiencing joy while doing it and connection with others while doing it. And so it's just really bringing so many of the things that science has been like, hey, this is what works, but doing it in a natural environment where a client can, like, they don't need me to continue surfing. Our goals with the surf therapy program is that they walk away with the skills to be able to continue accessing the ocean, whether it's through surfing or swimming or boogie boarding or stand-up paddle boarding, whatever it is, they have the tools that they need and the safety skills that they need in order to continue engaging with the ocean and building their relationship with the ocean. And then they also have a community to continue doing it within and being seen by. And so the goal is that as a therapist, you're not needed because they've developed a sustainable surf practice for their mental health that goes way beyond you. And a lot of the women start teaching their daughters and their sons how to access the ocean and how to access surfing and nature for their mental health. And so it's going from just that individual showing up for their own healing into the generations that come from them being healed, and into actively taking charge to heal the ocean themselves. Because more and more we have days where you can't get in the ocean because of the toxicity levels. And so it sparks this, like, the ocean healed me, and now, like, she's my medicine. I want to be able to continue accessing her. I want generations that come from me to be able to continue accessing her. And so it creates this natural reciprocal relationship that forms. And that is the highest level of positive psychology theory of change, that you go from when you're experiencing depression or anxiety to say, that is your reality, that is all that you see in yourself. And then you go into the ocean, you have one wave that then you feel just a second of joy. And you're like, I haven't felt joy before, because depression was my definition of self. But maybe if I can be depressed and I can feel a moment of joy. And then as you continue feeling that little moment of joy, wave after wave after wave, your brain's like, oh my gosh, it's not just this one-off thing, but this is actually something that's true about me. I struggle with depression, and I also experience joy and connection and hope. And so the depression isn't all that you are. And then from that, as you continue experiencing it, you recognize this is something that's true about me, and it's something that I can uniquely offer the world as well. And how can I show up in the world and express myself in the unique ways that only I can, that will make this world more beautiful. And so it's naturally happening, and you don't really have to do much. I like to say that Mother Ocean is my co-facilitator, and she's really doing most of the work.
Yes. Okay, man. So there's so many good things to unpack here. And before we jump to the break, there is one correlation I want to draw, and that's the bilateral movement part of it. And also what happens in the brain where trauma happens to the body, what our brain is doing to move through survival, and then how finding words can be difficult. If I reflect back on my own experience, that is true for me too in hiking and backpacking. Up until last year, I didn't have access to therapy, clinical talk therapy. I did BetterHelp, whatever. But everything that I had done leading up to this chapter of my life was journaling or listening to music or reading self-help books. And it wasn't until I spent time in the backcountry, one foot in front of the other, right foot, left foot was my first mantra on my first backpacking trip, because it was so dang hard. And it was just, I feel like the intensity of the hiking and backpacking that I was doing, especially when I first started and I had no training and my shoes didn't fit right and I wasn't prepared at all, except for the delusional confidence that I could complete a trail, it knocked some of that stuff loose. And you hear in yoga classes that the issues are in your tissues and all that stuff. So I'm interested, when we come back from the break, I'd love to jump into some of that, drawing that correlation between the water and on land. Because if it's possible for me to experience this right foot, left foot, if it's possible for the folks in your programs and you as well to experience this paddle left, paddle right, I'm just so interested in another point of connection where even though we're doing different activities, we're experiencing the same benefits. So when we get back from the break, I want to jump back into that. And if you have a question for Natalie, join us, give us a call. We'd love to take your questions. If you've been through the program and you're listening and you want to just share some love for what you've experienced with the Groundswell community, give us a call. If you are curious about any of the things that we've talked about so far, let us know. And when we get back, we'll talk about where some of these risks might come from, like what happens if a shark or a stingray comes at you. And we'll talk about how you can get involved in 2023 if this is something that you're interested in adding to your therapeutic practice. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN. Ready to find your wellness in the wilderness? Look no further than Hiking My Feelings. Through a combination of community and self-discovery, our programs are designed to give you the space and support to connect life's dots. If you're looking to figure out who you are underneath the stories you've been given and are ready to redesign the map of where you're headed with actionable steps and opportunities to dream big, we're here to walk alongside you. Whether you're a seasoned adventure enthusiast or brand new to the healing power of nature, we've got your back. Visit hikingmyfeelings.org today to download our free Trail Thoughts worksheets and learn more about Hiking My Feelings.
Sawyer is more than an outdoor company. Every Sawyer product you buy contributes to our common humanity, bringing Sawyer water filtration systems to people in need all around the world. In just 2022 alone, 260,000 households in over 45 countries received clean drinking water through Sawyer filters. Over the past 10 years, we've teamed up with over 140 charities in 80 countries to provide long-term, sustainable relief domestically, internationally, and in disaster situations. Together, we're saving millions of lives. Thank you.
Have you ever spoken unkindly to yourself? Do you realize when you do? Are you ready to make changes, but find yourself completely paralyzed by the choices in front of you? We live in a hyper-connected, always-on world, and frankly, it's exhausting. Let's make time to disconnect from the distractions and reconnect with yourself. Hiking My Feelings exists to help people discover the healing power of nature. Kickstart your healing journey and grab a copy of the book that started our movement, Hiking My Feelings, Stepping into the Healing Power of Nature. Named one of Audible's best hiking audiobooks and available wherever books are sold. Visit hikingmyfeelings.org today to learn more.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You're listening to Wellness in the Wilderness with Sydney Williams. Have a question for Sydney and her guests? Join us on the show at 888-346-9141. That's 888-346-9141. Now back to the show with Sydney.
Welcome back to Wellness in the Wilderness. I'm your host, Sydney Williams, and I'm chatting with Natalie Small, founder of the Groundswell Community Project, about surf therapy. What is it? How does it benefit our bodies, minds, and spirits? How can we create that reciprocal relationship with the ocean, or in our case, with the lands that we hike and travel upon? And before the break, we were talking about all the good things about how the science of spending time in the ocean can contribute to therapeutic results in natural settings. And before we jump into our next series of questions, Natalie, one of the things that we get a lot at our Hiking My Feelings events is like that people will sign up, and there are some questions about like, do I have to tell my story, or can I just sit and talk or sit and walk and listen? But more than everything, especially if we're in like the Sierras, people are like, okay, so tell me about bears. Tell me about the other predators that could rip my face off. In the context of surf therapy and assessing the risks involved with spending time in the ocean, what is it like? Are we worried about sharks snatching us off our boards? Is there a way that we educate that relates that back to, similar to how you were speaking about the waves are an opportunity? If we look at those as like little traumas that are coming towards us, how do we want to deal with it? How do you frame the natural risks of spending time in the ocean for the people that participate in your programs?
Yeah, I mean, sharks are real, stingrays are real, especially in Southern California. And I like to frame it as we're going into their home. And so anytime we're going into someone else's home, someone else's space, it's a gift, and we need to enter in with respect. And so knowing from a trauma lens, like knowing like what are the tools that I have within me and around me to support myself to go into this home, and from knowing what I know and having the community that supports me here, like, is it a good choice to go in? There's days where we don't go in because we're looking at the waves and the surf report and the wind, or the toxicity level of the ocean, or there has just been a recent shark sighting, and we decide, is this the opportunity that I want to be able to go in? And when I can't go in, what comes up within me? And how do I work with that and learn from that versus just constantly charging at it no matter what, or being able to take that moment to listen and make a decision. And so everything's an opportunity to kind of learn and listen and experience it.
Because I'll tell you, there's been a couple times I haven't run into a bear yet, like a grizzly bear. Like we saw a black bear in Sequoia this summer at one of our retreats. It was like really magical. But both times that I've done either day hikes or backpacking through Grand Teton National Park, we come up on the butt of a moose. And there is not a time or space outside of my career in skydiving in nature where, other than when I'm having an animal encounter, where I am so acutely aware of how small I am, how insignificant I am in the grand scheme of things, and how present I feel in my body, and how all of my senses are heightened when I'm creating space for a bull to pass on the trail. Have you had a similar encounter like that with wildlife in the ocean?
I mean, I think unfortunately, a lot of the ocean spaces are pretty populated by humans that we're going into. And so a lot of animals don't really want to be in them. But stingrays are one that we've had encounters with. And we teach the stingray shuffle in order to help people acknowledge, like, hey, we're walking into their space. So we give people the tools to be able to engage in ways that will hopefully not get them stung. But we had one over, I'm knocking wood as I say this, we've had one person that got stung by a stingray over the last 6 years. And it was that experience of like, okay, I just had my full fear brain just kicked in. I went into panic or pain or whatever the thing was, and being able to take that experience and come back to the body. And so by taking and that's oftentimes what turns an experience into a traumatic experience versus a resiliency building experience, is not having the time, the space to be heard, seen, and honored in it, and to process it and move through it. And so by having our team trained up and like, okay, a traumatic experience happened, and let's see how we can learn from it and grow from it and have it be fully experienced. So that way we can still come back into the ocean and not have this experience of like, because that happens, I'm never getting in the ocean ever again. But because this happened, now I have even more respect for stingrays. And the individual that had that happen, like, she came back and got back in the water the next week and was able to, like, it was an empowering process of being able to overcome something that was really painful and learn from it and grow from it and see how community was able to come around her and support her in it. And so oftentimes we try in the therapy world, it's like, oh, we want to make sure that nothing bad ever happens. And we're constantly trying to like helicopter, hover, protect. But nature provides the sense of chaos. That's important because we live in a world that is chaotic, and we need to learn how to be in those spaces. And what do we have control over when we are in those chaotic spaces is our own emotional regulation and our bodies and how we want and who we want to welcome in and connect with in order to turn it from a traumatic experience into a resiliency building experience.
I just love that so much. And I think that it's such a beautiful landscape to also take a moment to pause and self-reflect on how far people have come from, if this was a trauma that I experienced however many years ago, how did I respond then versus the tools that I have now? What a beautiful opportunity to put those tools into practice and to recognize the growth. I love that so much.
Mm.
So we do have one caller, Tom from Sycamore, Illinois. I'd love to hear what you have to say and answer any questions you may have for me or Natalie.
Hi, Natalie and Cindy. Sydney, thank you very much for taking my call. Natalie, I'm very intrigued in this presence, not process. Am I saying that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Presencing over processing.
Yeah, that I can come to the program and not have to talk for the entire program and then still maybe get something out of it and still be benefited and all that. I mean, as a nonverbal counselee, I guess I would say that intrigues me and really sets me up for success, knowing that I don't have to do all of the speaking and all the talking and all that. That's just such a great concept, but I've never heard it before. I'm wondering how you came up with that.
I mean, I've had so many amazing mentors. And one of them would even be my grandmother. She was really great at being rather than doing in her older years, and just seeing how she was able to be and just witness and experience things versus needing to necessarily talk about them. And my time with her was a lot of just sitting and observing and being together and feeling so connected and so present, and recognizing that oftentimes words get in the way of actually being present and having that very present in this moment experience. And so I think from my grandmother to Graciela Bottoni was my mentor and supervisor in Argentina, and she was the president of the Experiential Arts Therapy Association for Latin America. And she was really who turned me back on to therapy. I had given up being a practitioner in the talk therapy world, and she opened my eyes up to welcoming the body back into the healing process. And we would have entire weekend-long workshops where there wasn't a lot of actual verbal communication between participants because everybody was in an experience together. And so we didn't need to necessarily use words to talk about it, but just by going through the experience together, I didn't know their names, I didn't know their professions or their backgrounds or their trauma stories, but an intense, deep bond was formed and connection was formed. And so I think just for me, they're experiencing it, and my grandmother.
Oh, thank you, Natalie. And thank you, Tom, for your question. And thanks for listening. We appreciate you tuning in. Natalie, quick tip for our listeners. This is something that I've been thinking about doing for the first 3 episodes, but I never got around to because the conversations were just so great that I completely forgot. I kind of blacked out like you did on your first surfing experience. Let's do a quick tip for the listeners. How can folks find their version of wellness in the wilderness that is Mother Ocean? If you're just going to the beach for a day or you aren't necessarily a surfer, what are some of the ways that people can tap into that healing power?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is when right before you touched in on that importance of like all the things that we've had experiences that have been traumatic in our lives and how we would respond to them now differently than we would have then. And there's a practice by Rick Hansen called HEAL, and it's an acronym. It's H is have an experience. He focuses on negative experiences, but I'm like, have an experience, whether it's positive or negative, you can name it what you want to. And then you E, enrich it, A, absorb it, and L, link it. And you can do that. And that's a practice that we do after every single wave we catch. But you could even do that after seeing a beautiful tree or coming in contact with the butt of a moose. Basically, have an experience. And then afterwards, the importance of taking that moment to pause and allow yourself just to absorb it, noticing what you are experiencing in your body. What are you experiencing in your heart? What are you experiencing in your mind? And then taking time to share that with somebody else. So that community aspect, and then linking it, coming up, like thinking about, so what does this mean about me? What does this mean about the world around me? And how does this shift or alter and how do I fully express myself in the world because of this experience that I just had? And that can be, it's a way to help experiences sink in to the brain and help build those neurological pathways deeper of resiliency. And so that's a practice that we do after every single wave. And you could do that after every single hike or every single moose butt you come into.
Yes. All right. So before we wrap up the show, where can people connect with you? And what is one thing that you're most excited about for Groundswell in 2023?
Yeah. So we have our website, groundswellcommunity.org, and on Instagram as well, Groundswell Community Project. And also you can email me, natalie@groundswellcommunity.org as well. I am wintering this month, and so I'm not on my email. We try to work according to the seasons as much as possible and really honor those different seasonal shifts that happen. And so I'm wintering, I'm hibernating right now. But the thing that I'm really looking forward to for 2023 is actually something that you're doing with your community as well, is having that community platform and that space. We've shifted away from social medias because of the mental health barriers that they provide and can do, and still trying to find, like, how can we hold community for connection? And so looking at setting up an online platform where those who are either interested in learning more about surf therapy to become a provider themselves, to those who are interested in surf therapy to receive and to be in it and experience it, to those who are just looking for community and support through nature and their bodies and community to continue that work. And so I'm really looking forward to getting that platform set up and launching it in January to really connect our global community together and to dive deeper into that self-love and that sea love and sisterhood.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
I love it.
It's all about it.
All right. Well, everybody, be sure you follow them on social media and visit the website. Thank you, Natalie, for joining us on this episode of Wellness in the Wilderness. And for next week, it's just me. We've had 4 incredible conversations with really resilient, powerful women who have found their version of wellness in the wilderness through various activities like hiking, bikepacking, backpacking, paddling, kayaking, and now surfing. Next week, I'm excited to share a bit of my story, why I gave up a cushy life to live in a van while we build our programs at Hiking My Feelings, and what we have coming up for 2023. I'm looking forward to taking your calls. So if you've been through one of our programs and you want to share some stories, call in. If you're curious, call in. And if you're too shy to call in, you can always ask us questions via DM on Instagram, send us an email, or join the conversation on the Hiking My Feelings Family Network. Thank you for joining us for this week's dose of Wellness in the Wilderness. I hope this conversation was a breath of fresh air, and I look forward to connecting with you next Tuesday. Until next week, take care of yourself, take care of each other, dream big, and be kind. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us on this week's show. We hope this episode has been a breath of fresh air for you and has inspired you to find your wellness in the wilderness. We will reconnect with nature and you again next week.
Since 1984, Sawyer has existed to support your wildest adventures. Learn about their advanced insect repellents and family of technical lightweight water filters at Sawyer.com.